welcome back to Roaring20s podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. Happy 300th episode.
300 episodes.
That's wild.
That's so many episodes.
Like, actually, so many. That's so much to say.
So many.
I know.
It's a weird, it's a hard concept to think about of 300 hours of speaking.
I know. And some are more, some are a little less, give or take. The episodes that didn't make it due to technology.
And stuff like that.
And malfunction.
We are malfunctioning today, but we're here celebrating episode number 300 of Roaring20s podcast. We are so excited. Yeah. It's kind of crazy to think that we've been doing it for this long and for this many amount of episodes, but we're so happy that you guys are here with us for number 300. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
So much stuff to talk about, and it's only going to get better from here. So that's so exciting.
So exciting. So today we have some questions that we prepared to kind of reflect on these 300 episodes and just the changes that have happened in life since when we started at 25 and where we're recording now at 28 and 24 and 27 for Brenda, but same span of years. We have grown and changed so much in this time. I think everyone along with us has grown and changed so much in this time. So the questions today are a little bit of reflecting on just these few years of our 20s and where we're going next, and taking a minute to take an inventory on that stuff, because we're always trekking along on this thing or blah blah blah, and don't always, I think, stop to take an inventory of how far we come and where we still need to go.
100%. Yeah. And I feel like it's been really cool. When we started this thing and when people ask us oh, how did you start? And all this stuff, we really, I think of these two sweet people pleasing girls with big dreams and big ideas and just a really great genuine friendship that we're we want to help people. And we've always been that way. And it's really cool that of what this has blossomed into. And I think about when we first recorded in literally a closet with ghosts running around, pitter patter, and
sharing one mic.
Yeah, one mic, so close together on top of each other. And I think about that moment. I'm wow, it's just so crazy that this vision that we had has really come to life. Every little tiny thing. And I was reflecting on it more so too, because we have the same shared Google Doc that we had when we first started, and it's just so
Google Doc has had a lifetime.
I know, it's a little chaotic. It's been through some things, but it's so beautiful to look at. The notes that we have from our very first little meeting where we said which days we were gonna release episodes, and we said what our mission is, and we've stuck to that. And even at the very bottom, I'm oh my God, this is so Brenda and Julia of at the bottom having no matter what, we'll always be honest with each other.
This will never get in the way of our friendship.
Never. So on brand. And it's just really cool. The people we've had, the connections we've made, how much we've grown, and we're here to celebrate that today.
Yeah, and if you're new here today, I think we're branching out in terms of our reach. So if you're new here today, this show is really just about going through your 20s, figuring out all the crazy things that happen in this decade, and just an understanding of you're not alone through it all. This decade is so crazy because so many people are on opposite sides of the spectrum with every single topic that goes on in life in this age range. Some people are single and living at home, and some people are married with children, and it's your peers can be so far away from you in terms of life steps, or so close, and no matter where you're at, you're not alone. And this is just about figuring it out all together. Because we're all figuring it out, and I think one of the things we've discovered the most, and I'm sure we'll touch on it today, is that no one has it all together in every single area, and we're just here going through it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a huge reason behind creating this show. Was Julia and I also, for many of you listening, I'm sure, are overachievers, high achievers, have big goals and dreams, all the things. And one of the biggest things that we wanted to do was to be for ourselves, to lead by example and to start there, but to also be able to show others you don't need to have it all together. Nobody has it all together. And really being on that journey with you. I think that a lot of times, yes, we do share tips and advice because we've been through it. So it's not us necessarily preaching. It's like, girl, we've been there. And as a result, here are the tips that we have from what like we've learned through our own experiences, but we will never claim to have figured it all out. But
Mm-mm.
one of the biggest reasons why we really wanted to focus on all this stuff was because we kept connecting with all of these amazing people that kept saying to us, and from resources that we were learning from too, kept saying, like, if you do the work now, your life will be so much better than having to almost like feel like you're starting from scratch when you're 60. And it's never too late. That's for anyone who's listening here. I know we do have 6-year-olds because there is an incredible woman in her 60s who actually has a Roaring 20s sweatshirt, and I fucking love her.
Oh, shout
And
out.
has ordered first Phorm and all the things. So it is never too late to start. That will never be the message. You know, we're never going to send the message that it's too late. But for those of you that are within our age group that are like, I've got time, you totally have time. But there is something so powerful about starting now, because even through the past couple of years, our life has changed so much and we've changed so much, and we've been able to document and literally live how powerful these years can be, and how if we do that work, our life will be so much better. So it's a lot of what we do here, and we love it, and it's important, and I hope it helps you.
You're so cute, bud. Yeah, that's kind of the basis of the show. If you're new here, we're so happy to have you. Like Brenda said, like we're trying, but we certainly don't have it all together in any way, shape, or form. And that's a lot about what we're doing here, is being honest about that. That's the raw in the roaring. And just by doing that, I think has been the thing that has helped us immensely. Of just being vulnerable and honest about that stuff is the thing that I think has taken us so far and has made us feel so less alone and burdened by all this stuff. So if you're needing a place for that, we're happy to have you here. But before we get into like all our fun questions for today, we're gonna start with the segment that we start off every episode with. It's a little thing that we like to call Pride and Pickle. Every week is different.
I love it. We love it. We love it. It's always been this way. And Pride and Pickle is basically sharing something good that we're proud of, that we're happy about through our week, this past week. And then pickle is like being in a pickle. Like you're in a pickle and it's not ideal.
What are we dealing with? We're in the jar. You're in the pickle jar.
You're in the pickle jar.
You're going to get out.
Sometimes there's multiple pickles. Other
Sometimes
times
multiple pickles in a jar. Sometimes there's different flavored pickles all in one jar.
Heck yeah. And we live and learn through it all. So that's our segment. We share it every single week, sometimes at the very beginning of the episode. That's always the goal. And then sometimes we get on a tangent. And then sometimes the episode entirely becomes about the Pride and Pickle. But
that's fine too.
Whatever works. But I'll go first, as I tend to do. My pride this week is that I didn't think about my pride. I'm going to start with my pickle. My pickle this week is our friend Ashley Kate always asks me if I know how to ride a bicycle, and it's so offensive.
Wait, do you not know how to ride a bicycle?
I do. Of course I do. But
we do know some people that don't. So
that is true. But
so let's not shame here.
No, we're not shaming. Here's what we're doing. What we're doing is she tells me, and she's an amazing, amazing, wonderful friend. She's my made up honor. She's a wonderful human. But what the fuck? Because she says it in a way of like, oh, you look like you don't know how to ride a bike. And I'm like, what the fuck?
It's judgmental.
It's judgmental. And I'm like, that's not nice. I know how to ride a bike.
That is not nice. In what situation is she like wanting to know about? Is she like hoping to go on a bike ride with you?
Like, no, honestly, I don't even know that she likes to bike ride.
Wait, also, you're like a cycle queen. You had like a stationary bike like way before stationary bikes were cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And granted, I know this is in my later years, but it's so funny to me. She says it in a way where I'm like, I wonder if she thinks like I can't balance. Like, what do you think it is? Because yes, a stationary bike is quite
different. Your Instagram name is Balance with Brenda.
I know, I can balance, sister. But it's funny because it's one of those things, like, you know, when someone says something to you and then they probably forget, they say it again. This has been a question that she has asked me. I cannot tell you how many times she's asked me. And every time I am shook to my core that she doesn't remember that. Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
I guess you just give off a vibe.
which is so fascinating.
You just
What
got to start biking around
I don't
more.
really want to. Like, I guess if the question was, "Do you like it?" I don't really like it. Like, one
Sure.
time, Chris and I did bike ride 30 miles in one day.
Oh my God.
So, like, yes, I know how to ride a bicycle. It didn't
That's a
feel
lot of
good.
miles.
My freaking tailbone was hurting, but
For
as it
sure.
tends to do when you
That is
fall.
something that I cannot understand why they have not fixed.
Yes.
Like, I don't like cycle classes because my ass hurts afterwards.
Yeah,
Why have they not changed the seat? And I know they have that little padding you can put on the seat.
doesn't
That
help.
does not help.
I
Why
feel like your
must
body,
the
like,
seat
adapts over
why
time.
must the seat be in that shape and that texture?
Position. Yeah, I'm not sure. They really need to solve that. It's funny how, like, we're so adaptable because over time, I do feel like your body just, like, deals with the pain and is like, "All right, I guess we just fucking can't feel our vagina for the next week," and, like, that's
I,
it.
I, I don't want to live that life.
I know, I get it.
Fix it.
But you know how to live that life if you wanted to, as do I.
Sure.
Hello, I can
The
ride a bike.
point being,
I can
this
ride a bicycle.
podcast knows how to ride a bike.
That's right, and if you don't, no shame, no problem. Then my pride is that I'm just overall really proud of myself for continuing to, like, in this level up season that I feel like we've talked about, I've really continued to just, like, show up for myself even when I'm tired, and today was really one of those days.
Mm,
And I feel like I've just started to, like, normalize that in a lot more ways. Like, I remember many episodes ago, I feel like I almost, like, would judge myself for being tired, and I'm like, "What the" like, of course you're gonna be tired, like, that's normal, it's okay, and I've just continued to show up instead of choosing snooze, so I'm proud of that.
that's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Oh, it is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also look out for their merch coming soon on It's Hard.
On It's Hard. We can't not, right? In honor of
I
300.
mean, we say it every 5
Every
seconds.
single minute.
It's hard.
But that's my pride and that's my pick. What about you?
My pickle, I'll start with my pickle too. My pickle this week is that I am once again homeless
Oh,
because, first of all, I'm not actually homeless. Like, my wonderful boyfriend is allowing me to live in his apartment, but I am once again without my own home. This is, I think, the 4th time I've been without a home.
yeah.
That
Could
is
you
mine.
give people, like, a little backstory on the
Sure.
homelessness?
And
So they
I
don't
do
picture you
want
inside
to,
of a box.
yeah, I want to make it very clear. I'm very privileged. Like, I have always people to house me. I'm not actually homeless,
Right.
but I am apart from the home that I pay
That's
for.
nice.
So this is, yes, my 4th time in this position. Unfortunately, my apartment has flooded. We've had some plumbing problems and
Unreal.
the apartment flooded. So we're not able to live there. It's been a week. It's probably gonna be about 2 more. So that's insane. Yeah. I mean, I've been homeless twice, 2 other times for floods. Thank you, hurricanes, and then 1 time for an abrupt move out situation. So
Listen to, like, the hundreds episodes.
yeah,
for
around the
scoop on
100 to
that.
get that scoop there. So this is about the 4th time. Homeless queen. A little trigger, a little PTSD.
A little bit. I don't blame you.
My everyone's like, so are you having like hurricane PTSD? It's like, yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're picturing, like, all of your childhood remains floating in the water.
Like, literally. I had to live with Brenda for like 6 months one time. I have been homeless too many times for my short little life.
You have, but you honestly, like, you do. I'm sure, like, I can't imagine. Eloise, that is my underwear.
Eloise.
But hello, sorry. But you really do handle it with grace, I would say. I'm sure you've shed tears. I can't imagine you not, but, like,
Oh,
on
I
the
have.
outside, you look like you're just, like, flooded again.
She's just up to here in water.
Literally.
I literally cannot believe that I've been homeless 4 times.
I can't either.
For things completely out of my control. But I will say thank you for saying that. I have cried a lot. Because just like the stress of like dealing with the building and dealing with the insurance, like But I will say that my pride is that I do have to pat myself on the back for being resilient and
Yeah.
like proud of myself for just always trying to like keep it positive and like know that it's going to be okay
Yeah.
and just adjusting where I need to adjust and like trying to make it work and not letting it like overtake everything else because it's so easy to do that.
Yeah.
um and it's not to say that I haven't like had major anxiety about it and cried and blah blah, because I absolutely have. But I am proud of myself for just like keep on keeping on about it
Yeah.
and trying to stay as positive as I can for the most of the time. And I was just reflecting on that this morning and I was like, yeah, I feel like really proud of myself, like for picking that route and having the outlook that I have
Yeah.
on those kind of things. So I am feeling proud about that.
Yeah. And that is something to be so beyond proud of. Like, I think that that's a really good way to word it, of being resilient, because I think
Mm.
that sometimes with Grace, like even me saying it, I'm like, that feels wrong to say because I don't want her to feel like she can't have had hard moments, even though you obviously logically know that, but with like resilience of
Mm.
kind of letting yourself feel the things,
Yep.
letting yourself know that it's okay to feel them, and then also like continuing onward. And I think that as we progress in this crazy 20s time, I think it is when people hear like us talk about advice and whatnot, they do they do default kind of to thinking like, oh, like they've figured out like almost like how to bounce back quickly. And I do think that we have become better at like bouncing back, but it doesn't mean that it's our automatic thought.
No, no, my first thoughts were anxiety spiral tears,
Yeah.
like 100%. Like
Right.
that first night was like up all night, down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
upset. Even though logically, like I knew it was gonna be okay. This is how I'm gonna handle it. This is how we're gonna move forward. Like blah blah. But I needed to have that, and then
Yeah.
being able to be like, okay, so I let myself have that moment. Like, how do I, move forward in a way that's best for me? And like, a lot of that is being like, it's gonna be okay. We're just gonna deal with it, and we're gonna keep going on, and that's happening. But like, we can still live our life and do the things that we're supposed to do, and be joyful, and
Yeah.
like, no one's hurt, and that is the most important. Like, I really attest that to like my mom. She's always always instilled in me, and that if it can be replaced,
Mm.
it doesn't really matter. And like the most important thing is that that no one's hurt, and like that's really it. Like as long as everybody's okay and safe, like that's all that matters. Stuff can be replaced. And she's always said that. I mean, my heart like has refelt for them like this past 2 weeks of just like them losing their house to a hurricane twice, like,
Yeah.
and the emotional toll that had to have paid on them. But like even through that, she's always had that mentality, and so I just really like am very grateful to her for passing that to me.
Yeah.
um and I do think in general, since it is a reflective episode, like I do think that that's like one of the things that we have gotten so much better at. And like, I feel like I'm a very different person in terms of that in my life, of like in my younger 20s. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it's like a knowing yourself kind of thing more. I think in
Yeah.
my earlier 20s, like I was not able to bounce back as fast, or I would like,
Yeah.
how am I going to be able to bounce back? I think it's like the question of like, how will I repair
Yes.
certain things, or how will I keep going? And now I know with
Yeah.
like 100% that anything that is thrown at me, I can have like a moment of crumble, but I know that I will be able to pick myself back up and keep moving.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that we have so many different, like, little that are really big moments like that. And the reason that we know is because we've lived it and because we've done it before in a different way. And we've used it as evidence. Like, I feel like we talk about evidence a lot, but it's because it's so true. Like,
Mhm.
because you've made it through something unfortunately similar, but like realistically similar, like you know that, and because you've been through it with someone who really guided you along the way and instilled these types of beliefs in you, like it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it easier to navigate than it would have been if you hadn't had that. So
100%.
I think we are aware of stuff like that, and we really do use it to fuel that type of belief, because I do think in a spiral moment, it's very easy to be like, "Oh, this is never gonna get better, and why does this happen to me?" And kinda get into a victim mentality, and "Why do I have to go through this again?" And try to understand, and, like, all this stuff, and if you think those things about any given topic, it's because you're normal. But, being able to take it a step further from that and know, like, "Okay, but everything is replaceable. Most things are replaceable. Everything is figure outable. The only thing that's permanent is like death, really."
Yep.
Um,
Really.
so, anything else, like I can work it out. And that's also not to at the same time belittle like those emotions that you are feeling. I think that that's important, because I don't want it to ever come off when we say things like that, like, oh, that doesn't matter that you feel sad or scared or annoyed. Like you can feel all that stuff, and you can know that you'll get through it and that you can replace it and all of that.
100%. And I've quoted this poem in the past, but it's something that I always try to think about if I'm like having a hard moment or something crumbles or blah blah. And I don't know the name of the poet, and I should look it up, and I will. But it's just a little piece of poetry, and it says, "House burnt down, now I can see the stars."
Ooh.
And I just always come back to that when I'm having a hard moment of like, okay, this happened. Like, what is there to gain from this? And like, how do we move forward from this? And so I
Yeah.
always come back to that one, and it just makes me like, okay, to like check your
Yeah.
perspective, you know? Like
Yeah.
sometimes we have to check our own selves.
Yeah, and it's I think it's also, like, just very, very grounding to have
Yeah.
little things like that. I thought you were gonna say the one about dancing in disaster, dancing in a storm, something like
That's like a whole mythology thing.
love that.
We love her too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Should we get into these questions?
Let's get into the questions. Let's do it. Do you wanna start? You want me to start? What do you wanna do?
I will ask you first, but because I feel
Okay.
like I kind of like already started.
Yeah.
Um, oh wow, I think I answered this question. So the question is, where do you find yourself to be doing well slash doing better compared to your earlier 20s? I think I'll just finish up mine, I guess, because I think like what I said is really the case of like being able to like bounce back from things
Yeah.
so much better because it becomes from because it comes from a place of like I just think a more confidence in myself and
Yeah.
knowing myself better now than I did earlier in my 20s. I think a lot of it is rooted in confidence. Um and I think it is also that the confidence to do that is also just confidence in general is I think
Yeah.
where I'm doing better in terms of so many areas of my life, in like dealing with hard times, in terms of career, in terms of making choices for myself.
Yeah.
I just think and I don't mean the type of confidence that's like, I'm a bad bitch and blah, blah, which like
Right.
I am, and that's awesome. But I'm not talking about that kind of confidence. I'm talking about the kind of like quiet inner confidence of that,
Mm.
you know, you can handle whatever is thrown at you.
Yep.
And I think confidence is something that maybe people have some misunderstanding about. I think there is that outwardness confidence, which is great. And I think there is that quiet confidence, which is also great. And they're two different things. And both of them require cultivation.
Mhm.
But I think that quiet inner confidence is the thing that I've grown the most.
Yeah, and I think that the inner one honestly almost matters more, because at the end of like they both
Sure.
matter obviously, but at the end of the day, like you don't necessarily need to I always brought this ice cream cone. You don't necessarily need to like portray yourself in a certain way. But in order for it to be true, I guess. However, I do love that I think that the inner confidence is what does like almost exude on the outside. And I think that it's
Mm,
maybe for some people intimidating and for other people inspiring. Like I feel like
mm,
now, um, I added that on my list as well in terms of, but I didn't put confidence. I guess I put self-belief.
mm,
And I agree and worded it so similarly of like, it's that trust with yourself that you might not know how, you might not know when or why or whatever, but you know that some way you will figure it out because you trust yourself enough to. And I think that that is it's like irreplaceable. Like it's an irreplaceable feeling. And even if it wavers, I think that that's important, that it does not mean that
Oh
it
my
keeps
God, no.
wavering.
It
But
wavers, baby.
it wavers all the damn time, but it's also like I'm gonna give this back to you. It's also a knowing that it's possible, and that's something that like no one can take away from you, and you can always come back to, and it's just super powerful. So I love that.
Is that
Um,
yours?
I agree with that. I made like bullet points honestly
Let's
because
hear
um
'em.
yeah, so I made some bullet points, and then if you need me to elaborate on something,
Oh,
you let
she's a
me know.
prepared queen.
Um, well, I feel like I had to be because I'm like, I have just been floating around. So I just took quick bullet points minutes
Love it.
before the show. Shaming myself less, just less. Doesn't mean never, less.
Mm,
Prioritizing myself more. So
mhm.
however it takes, however that like plays out. So whether it has to be earlier due to other responsibilities, but I've just made it like a non-negotiable to prioritize myself more. Um, I feel like my consistency in general, like I think I used to have this story in my head that like, oh, I'm not a consistent person. And that really like informed a lot of my just like life negatively. So I feel like I've really rewritten that and have been very
You
intentional about
really have rewritten that story.
I
Like,
really
that's the
have
polar opposite.
polar opposite. Um, I feel like I was self-aware. I think we've always both been looked at as like more mature, more emotionally intelligent. Maybe not more, but like very for quote unquote our age. And I feel like now our self-awareness has really increased, both of us. And it's allowed us to be more vulnerable. It's allowed us to let other people in. It's allowed us to be more relatable to people and to really help them. And something specific to me, I feel like I'm a lot less impulsive in like reacting emotionally to something.
Mm,
And I feel like many more of my decisions are emotionally aware, but not emotionally impulsive.
love
And
it.
that I'm significantly less indecisive. And I really, oh my gosh, like all through my younger years and college and everything, the level of indecisiveness that I had was like silly. Love me, but silly. And now I feel like I really have just been able to make decisions. Of course, I still think about them. Of course, I still value other people's opinions in my life, but it's just not as intense.
Yeah. I'm very decisive on the big things. Little things,
Yeah.
still like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that it's like it can be not perfect and we can still have grown in it. And I do feel that for us.
For sure.
Yeah. Like you were like pretty decisive on a move to California and
No,
like
the big things I am so decisive on. Like I've always known what I wanted to do with my career. Like I've always
yeah.
like I know about more like my morals, my things like that. Certain things I will not um waver on. But
Yeah.
then like the little day-to-day things of like, what do I want to eat for dinner? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay, that's normal. That's normal. I would like to normalize that. So yeah, I would say those are a couple of the doing betters.
I love it. What are some topics that you feel alone in your 20s? What
Mm.
do is there anything that you feel like no one else is going through sometimes? Like, I feel like a lot of times we can have, I was actually just talking about this with someone. We have that thought of like, oh, no one feels this way, or like,
Mm.
no one feels the way I feel about this,
Mm.
which I just want to throw out there is completely untrue.
Right.
But we all have those feelings sometimes. So, is there anything like that you have going on?
I mean, I think like through this show, I think automatically, truly, like one of my go-to mantras, phrases, whatever you want to call it, is literally, I'm thinking this because I have a normal human brain and this is a normal human thought. Like, I feel like I've literally trained myself to react that way because I know how I know how negatively it can impact us to feel so alone and to victimize. And I am not judging anyone who like victimizes and has that type of mentality, but I know that for me, it like icks me out about myself. Like I don't want to feel that way. I feel like I always come back to sometimes to like a fault of belittling myself a little bit, but I'm always like, it can always be worse. Um, but I think that I've tried to feel I feel like I feel that probably less than most people, but again, because I've trained myself so specifically to not think that way. Like it's
Mhm.
literally, I say it all the time, even on the show. I'm like, you have a normal human brain. It's a normal human thought.
I love that. That's a great
Um,
mantra.
yeah, because it's like you can feel so isolated in that
Yep.
sense. However, there are certain things that to have an answer to this, I do feel like stupid for struggling with, which maybe is like relevant enough. Like one of them being, I find that now I spend a lot of, this is very vulnerable for me, but I feel, because I don't know how to word it, but I
That's what we're here
feel,
to do.
I know that is what we're here to do. That is one thing that I struggle with, is sometimes fully express, like not even
Yes.
expressing. I don't have shame in expressing. Sometimes I don't know how to say what I'm feeling.
1,000%.
Right? It's
Yeah.
hard. But I would
It
say one of,
actually, like, Brene Brown talks about this all the time of, like, at most conflict arises because we don't actually have vocabulary to express what we're truly feeling. So that's where conflict comes in, because we can't actually communicate properly with English.
yeah. I think sometimes that's why a lot of people don't share, myself included, and why this show like really forces us to have these conversations, because sometimes I feel like it's almost that like fuck it mentality of, well, I don't fucking know how to say this, so I just won't. I'll just stay quiet. I'll just feel it in
Yeah.
my head.
Mhm.
But two of those things are, one of them is I spend now like my whole, I have always been a very connected person, so I've always spent so much time with people that I love, and I feel like when I lived at home with my parents, like, I would fill my time with spending time with them. I would always make plans with a friend, so I was very, like, avoidant of being alone, and then once Chris and I moved out east, we had totally different jobs, totally different schedules, and I spent a lot more time alone, and I was very uncomfortable with it, because it is a lot easier to be, like, alone with thoughts or spiral or, like, all that stuff when you're alone, and now we're together all the time, and I love it, and it's amazing, and we connect and all the positive things, but I do find now, vulnerably, that when I am, like, alone, it's not because
Mm.
I, like, think something's gonna happen to me, it's not because I don't know what it is, but I have a lot of discomfort around being alone, even if
Mm.
it's not for long, and I think if I had to, like, psychoanalyze myself in a short amount of time right now, I think it would be that, like, when I've been alone in the past, I feel like you have uncomfortable thoughts or negative thoughts or, like, have been in a crummy mental place, and I
Mm.
felt a lot of loneliness within that time, when I was alone more, and
Mhm.
I think I'm uncomfortable. But and that's my struggle, yes. And whenever Chris isn't, like, around or something like that, I feel like I can make so many positive moments, and I do have, like, positive moments when I'm alone, but I
Mhm.
do feel like it's a lot harder for me to just, like, relax being alone. Like, I
Mm.
feel like I have to be doing all these things and whatnot, so I would say that's definitely something that I'm struggling with and feel, like, silly for struggling with, and I'll tell you why I guess I feel alone in that to an extent is because I'm like, there are people who don't have a significant other. There are people who don't have a connected family. There are people who don't have relationships with their friends that they love. Why do I feel lonely when I'm alone? But
Mhm.
I guess
Yeah.
that would be a thought of that, instead of like, why don't I look at it as like, oh, I can enjoy it and it's free and like
Mhm.
all this stuff. I'm like, maybe I'm the only person in such a connected circumstance that feels alone like that. So maybe that's one of them.
Yeah, I don't think you are alone in
Yeah.
that. But is it something that you want to, like, work on?
Yeah, I mean, I want to work on it in the sense of I just wanna be more comfortable with it, like, I wanna just associate
Yeah.
being alone with joy, and it's funny because I'm saying that, but, like, I am independent, like, I'm not, like,
It's different.
it's so different,
That's
right?
different. Yeah.
Like, it's super different of, like, I feel super independent, and I can count on myself, and I have self-belief and all the things, but I do think I associate being fully alone with, like, like negativity or negative thoughts that like I don't want to deal with. So it's just like, yeah, even if they're not real, and even if I know the thoughts aren't real, but like I guess I just associate with that. So I just want to break that association, and we've broken so many stories in our lives, so
Mhm.
I can break that one too.
Yeah, and
Um,
also I think you could find, like, if you really set it up for yourself, like, you could find joy in that alone time. It would probably take practice. You'd probably have to
yeah,
practice it for a few times, but it's something that you could create if you wanted to put, like, the
yeah,
time and effort into it.
yeah. I think that too. Part of
I
that is
think
that like,
a lot of being alone, though, starts from getting comfortable with being alone. Like, I think it
yeah,
takes practice until you, like, love it, if you're not someone that just, like, loves it off the bat,
yeah.
you know?
I think I also do feel like a part of it is that I do feel very busy. So I think that when I have a moment to not be busy to an extent, I also do like it is joyful for me. It's not just because I'm like, oh, I'm afraid, so I have to spend time with people. I do feel like it is very soul filling for me. So instead of being alone, I do often opt to do
Yeah.
something with someone. But I guess there obviously will be moments where it'll come up again. So I will work on it. But if it's one of those things that you're like, what? I should not feel this way because I'm so lucky and have so many great things. And
You're allowed to feel however you feel.
yeah, you're allowed to feel however you feel. So that's that. I would say that's one of the things.
I love
Yeah.
it.
You?
What topic do I feel alone in?
Yep.
I do feel like I have, like you said, kind of trained myself to not believe that I'm alone in things, because the truth is that you're not.
Yeah.
And I have been trying over the past few years to like check myself, like get out of your own way and get out of your head and like realize that
Yeah.
you're not alone in this. But something that I feel like I struggle with still, there's a couple things. I think my relationship to money, I really struggle with my relationship to money still. I feel, and there's a question later that we'll come to, which I might reflect back on this on, but like I feel like I don't have like the knowledge that I want to have about like how to properly invest money and save money and blah blah. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's something that I feel insecure about because I
Yeah.
don't know enough about it. And yes, I can absolutely like there's a lot of resources out there and I could teach myself, and we've had people on the show. I just I have such a block there that I don't even want to do that because I have such an like an insecurity around it.
Yeah.
Um so definitely like my relationship to money. Also I think sometimes like the way when I have like a strong anxiety, that feels very isolating and something I'm still
Yeah.
working on. I definitely think my anxiety has been way more spread out than it has been in the past, but when I do feel it, I still feel it quite intensely.
Yeah.
Um, so that's something that I'm working on of like, you know, trying to just be able to like get myself out of that a little
Right.
quicker, and that feels lonely sometimes. Um, no, yeah, we'll stick with those two things for now.
Yeah. And the list
I'm
goes
sure there's
on.
more. The
Yeah,
list
there's
goes on.
definitely more, and I'm sure we'll just have full episodes about them
Yeah.
and how that goes. I think for both of us, like a shared thing, not to speak for you, but just based on some conversations, is I feel like sometimes like the empathy of it all hits so
Oh.
hard that it's like,
Oh, yeah.
how do we not be this way? Like I know,
Oh my God, 100%.
right? It's really
1,000%. Like, and I think that's really another one of still the people pleasing.
Mhm.
It's
But in different ways, it's masked. It's less of
oh
like
yeah.
it's not I want to impress you, like I want to make you like necessarily. It's just different. It's different.
Here's what it is. And we've talked about this before. I have such a deep fear of getting in trouble or like doing something wrong or upsetting somebody.
Mm,
And like, because it's not like I'm doing things to like please other people. It's not that kind of people pleasing. It's
yeah,
literally like a deep fear of getting in trouble in some way. Like I
yeah,
have such a deep rooted fear about that. I don't know where it's come from. And I've talked about it on the show before. And I
yeah.
do feel very alone in that because I feel like
Mm,
it's so intense for me. I feel like I get so upset if like someone honks their horn at me or if
mm,
like someone does this little tiny thing. Like I it upsets me so much.
yeah. No,
And
I
like
so relate.
it's like it's so
Paralyzing.
stupid. I know it's so stupid. There's like people all over the place walking around being like, I don't give a shit about anyone. Like I'm gonna stand up for myself
Yeah,
in this way or say this thing or do this thing. And if someone's pissed off or someone's mad or if I could possibly get in trouble, like I don't care. Like literally when we go on the airplane, Nathan likes to be on the airplane number one. And if we're not number one on the airplane, he goes with the wrong boarding group and I freak out. He like will be like boarding group D and he'll go up with boarding group A. And I'm like, we cannot do that. Like we would get in trouble.
Don't like
Like
that.
the amount of literal real fear
Mhm.
and like stuckness that I feel when he tries to go with boarding group A and makes me go with him. Like
Mm,
it's debilitating to me.
I
And
totally
it's so
understand.
stupid because nothing ever happens. And what's
Right.
the worst that would happen? They'd say, this is not your group. Wait. But to me, someone saying this is not your group, wait, feels
Terrible.
like death.
I so relate, like, in a way that I can't even describe.
I don't know how to change it. It is like literally if someone were to ask me what is like the one thing you want to change about yourself the most, and I guess this is this question, it's that. I
Yeah.
don't want to have that fucking fear about like
Yeah.
every little thing.
Yeah. 100%. I feel like I think about that all the time. Like, even something like this like makes sense. Like, nobody wants to get a ticket or something like that. But like, I am so the type of when we're driving, and like Chris was literally a cop. Like, he knows. Like, I don't need to tell him, oh, this cop is there, because like he like
You know,
probably hid in that spot too, and he's fine. But I'm like, there's a cop there. And I do it every time. I can't help it. I did it when he was a cop. I do it now all the time. Like, I can't help it. There's this like, ugh, like ick about it. And it's terrifying. So I really understand. I think
and it's also because like I am so fearless in so many things in my life.
mm,
Like I am pursuing a career that's really hard and I have like no fear of failure. I don't have a fear like I have no problem like going in a room and like doing an audition and like possibly failing. Like I have no problem taking risks. Like no problem when it comes to like my personal
yeah.
failure possibility. But when it comes to someone when it comes to getting in trouble,
Yeah.
that's fear 100.
I totally understand. And it goes beyond that too. Like, I think it also goes deeper into like something, part of what I associate with it is like, oh, well, if I get in trouble, then like I'll be limited, because then I'll get in trouble, and what does that mean for me? And then I won't be able to live my life. And then like for me, it like spirals in that direction in some ways. Or
Yeah.
also I think it's part of the unknown is like, what is even getting in trouble? Like, when I think of getting in trouble, I don't even know that I know what that looks like what they're gonna do to me. But for some reason, that's even worse that I don't know. Like, if we cut in front of someone on the line, what are they gonna do?
Right,
Like,
what are they gonna do to me?
I don't know, but
There's
it's
crazy people
terrifying.
out there, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's terrifying. Well, now we know.
Wow, okay, good one. Next question.
Next question.
Ooh, okay, like, literally my heart hurts from that
I'm just
conversation.
discussing it, I understand.
Like, it's so crazy. Please, does anyone else feel that way? Where do you think it
Let
comes
us
from?
know.
What work do we need to do to release that? Because I don't wanna be a scaredy cat girl anymore
Yeah,
about boarding with group A, you know?
yeah.
I'm not saying break the rules, don't do that, but you know what I mean. What do you wish you knew sooner
I wish I knew sooner.
now that you're wise and 27
Now that I'm 27
and so wise?
and really wise, maybe that's another t-shirt. It's hard and then wise. Just
Wise.
wise, that's it.
So
Really
wise.
wise. I wish I knew sooner, just like your like authenticity is cool and vulnerability is cool. I wish I knew that sooner,
Mm.
because I think we've always been good listeners, good friends, like honest, but I think with the tone that we lead with now, I just think, I don't know, it's so much more like attractive as a human being. It's so much more open and welcoming, and I think that that's always been something that's really like central to who I am, and part of my fear from the previous question is like I never want to be seen as a bad person. And for me, partially it's the getting in trouble, but also like for me, beyond the getting in trouble, there's such a fear of like, I don't want to be seen as a not a good person. Don't know where
Mm.
that comes from, but it's there. Um, and that you don't like need to impress anyone. I think there's this sense like within our like competitive nature of like
Yeah.
wanting to make an impact where it's like you need to impress and you need to like do this stuff. And I wish I knew that. And then on a
Right,
stupid
like, 'cause, like,
level,
doing things for other people that are not actually what you wanna do for yourself
yeah.
because you
Or like
feel like
aren't
it
worth
will.
your time. Like I think
Yeah.
there are certain like time investments that are worth it for a specific result, like work-wise. Like you invest time in things like work with an outcome of a promotion. Like I don't know, there are certain things that make sense, but there
Mhm.
are other things of like I guess exactly what you're saying of what it's not worth
For
your
you.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for you.
Um for you. And then a
Yeah.
stupid thing is tattoos. Like I wish I knew ahead of time that like my best friend would get her tattoo removed at 28. Like I wish I knew that, because then I
I
wouldn't have
would
gone.
have told you that.
I wouldn't have gone. And I remember her first tattoo when I went and also got an empathy tattoo. You see, it follows us everywhere. An empathy tattoo. This guy that she thought she was
That's
gonna
true.
like was gonna be her boyfriend, so she thought at the time. She was wrong.
You was wrong.
She was like sad, and we went to go. She's like, I want a tattoo. I'm like, okay, something like that. You guys actually, we definitely did the show. We were podcasting when we got these tattoos, and now she's getting it removed. The fuck.
I could have told you that.
I know you probably could have, but I didn't know at the time, and I
Okay.
hate mine.
You hate yours?
I hate my like my rib-ish one. Hate it.
Hmm.
Something happened to it. It like grew. Like I don't know how to describe it.
Okay, moral of the story is only get a tattoo if you really want it.
Right. Like we love that's the impulsivity of it all. Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it. Like
What about me? What's something I wish I knew sooner? I wish I knew sooner to choose myself.
Mm.
And to not. I wish I knew sooner that if you choose yourself
Mm-hmm.
and you're with the right person will stay. And that
Ooh.
if you don't choose yourself, like not choosing yourself is not going to make the wrong person stay.
Not choosing yourself is not going to make the wrong person stay.
You know
Yeah,
what
I
I
have to repeat
mean?
that to myself.
I think
I
a
do.
lot of times in my earlier 20s and in my teens, I made sacrifices that were beyond what sacrifices should be and made choices that put other people first because I
Yeah.
thought that would make the people that I wanted to stay.
Yeah.
And I now know that I should put myself first. Of course, there's always like compromises in friendships, romantic
Yeah.
relationships, of course, but in general, put myself and my wants first and knowing that but when I'm doing that, the people that are meant to be with me on that journey will stay with me on that journey.
Yeah. 100%. I think there's so much of that message, luckily, now in the world. Doesn't mean people follow it. Doesn't mean that I think that having someone on the show eventually that helps us like discern in a very like logical way, like the differences between like sacrifices that we make that like make sense versus sacrifices that are like, I think certain things you don't know until you know, which
Yeah.
is like one of those most annoying things. But um, in terms of like, there's such a story in the media of like you make sacrifices for love, and I think that there needs to be a more clear, even though there's always going to be a gray area, but there needs to be like just more clarity around that, because I think people take it in a way that's like sacrificing all of themselves for love, and like that's not it. Like I don't know, it's just it's hard to articulate, but I do think we need more on that. But
Yeah.
I love that that's such a powerful thing that you've learned, and I agree. And I think that that's a message that's out there so much more now of like you will attract your tribe by the vibe that you put out there. And I think we've seen it. Like we've seen like the people that kind of like stay connected, the way that you grow. And I think that it's really cool because then your tribe really does become like so much more uplifting. Like I know that so much of the reason why we have like developed in the way that we have over the past couple of years has been because we've like chosen to lead with authenticity and vulnerability, and it's made the people who are like, wow, that's pretty neat, even people who weren't like we've had some of our friends who were not that open or like
Mhm.
emotionally there or self-aware, and like they've chosen that, they were like, oh, that's a pretty neat way to live. And
Yep.
now our friendships are so deep because of it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say my other like sillier one. It's not silly. It's a really good thing. It's just not as deep. Is my dad said it to me from when I was very young, and I chose not to listen. And I wish I listened then, and I'm surely listening now. Of it's all about who you know.
Mm,
Everything is about who you know.
yes.
So make those connections. Keep those connections. Put yourself in spaces that maybe are uncomfortable because you might meet someone important.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of success in life is about who you know and who you spend your time with. So he was right.
Yeah. That's right.
He was right. Dads are always right.
That's right. Then I think biggest takeaways?
I feel like we've like all of
We've
them
said
kind of
that?
answer that,
Okay,
right?
okay. Yeah, I think
Unless
so.
you have something.
I have bullet points, but I can like literally speed through them. Biggest takeaways, top things I've learned. Guilt and shame don't do shit.
Ooh.
Nobody can force you to do anything. It has to come from within. And at the end of the day, you only have you and yourself. So obviously we have so many people in our lives, but it's more so like nobody can really force us to do anything. And I think sometimes we just forget that. I don't know. Choice is ours and we can like do with that what we will. Like I think we can look at that in an empowered way, or we can be like, it's only me and whatever. So that we always talk about the power of not shrinking ourselves, and we always will because it's powerful. This is definitely a big one that I feel like we've both kind of started to see, and it's been more clear to us as I think we've been aligning with it more now in this next season. With challenging yourself actually does build you, and showing yourself that you can do the thing that you maybe never thought you could do is like nothing else. We don't deserve dogs, but like do. And I never thought that like I could love a dog like this. I love
I
Muffin. I
know.
love my previous dogs, but it's just a silly one
I
that
love
I
it.
really feel at my core. Yeah, those are random ones.
I'll add you can change your life whenever you want to.
Mm,
Um if you have something that you want to do, even if you're unsure of how it will turn out, but you feel some little part in your heart wants to do it, fucking do it.
yeah,
Um yeah, I'll give you
love
this.
it. Cool.
Takeaways. Love. Um
Mm.
okay, what are some resources that have helped guide you through your 20s thus far? We
Oh,
usually ask this question to all of our guests, and we always have great answers, great books, podcasts, people.
yeah.
So if you're looking for resources, listen to some of the guest episodes. There's a lot of good resources in there.
Yeah, such good resources. It's so hard, like, at this stage because I feel like we've, like, compiled a bunch of
So many.
yeah, at this point, it's like feels like a compilation.
Mhm.
So there are many people specifically that I will not go through because it's not an Oscar speech, but many people that I feel like have opened their hearts and their minds to me and have made me feel not judged and have made me feel safe to, like, express, like, my deepest, most, like, embarrassing thoughts, and that in itself has been so grounding. My mom being one of them, like, I really feel like I'm very, very fortunate to be able to have that type of relationship with, like, the woman who birthed me. Then just, like, podcasts in general. So this podcast specifically, we always say it, but we mean it, and I feel like if you are a listener of the show or whether you're starting now and you listen to more episodes and listen back, you'll understand why as you start to listen. Like, it's forced us to reflect. It's forced us to push ourselves to be consistent with something, and it's forced us to have really difficult conversations sometimes while we're going through it, not after the fact. And just podcasts in general. So whether it's self-development ones where I'm learning so much from people in like a snippet of time, or honestly what served me a lot in the past couple of months, just because I feel like I have been in a big like work switch in my life. And by switch I mean my like work switch is on all the time. Um just like funny podcasts, like podcasts that make me laugh,
Oh,
podcasts that
I
like give
love a
me a
funny
different
podcast.
perspective. Yeah, because I didn't listen to too many before, and now they're very grounding. Even a little true crime, doing good with that. I don't really read books. I'm not a bookworm, so if I
You
do,
I
it's a
did
self
try for a little bit.
I did. I think it's one of those things like, you know, when like you don't want to claim a title that you're not. That's totally not to say I wouldn't read a book, but I don't feel like I am deserving of calling myself a reader whatsoever because I'm
Yeah,
not consistent enough with it. But I do appreciate especially self-development ones. I literally think my most recent book that I read was Discipline is Destiny.
yeah.
And I'm in the middle currently of Every Summer After that our BFF Haley gave me 1 year ago. Still not done.
Oh, but that's not like a
Yeah.
healthy book.
No, it's like a fun, like, leisurely book, and as we know, I could struggle with that, but it's not because it's bad, I just don't make the time for it.
For sure, for
I
sure.
own it.
Resources that have helped guide me. Meditation.
Hmm.
Um, Untamed.
Oh, Untamed, big, 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 big.
Big. I think that was like an awakening for a lot of women in their 20s and beyond when it came out. Meditation, that book. Yeah, I think those are like the two things that really stand out that I think are tangible. Like everyone could go meditate and everyone could read that book. And those are the things that have stood out. Oh, and also community, like finding communities.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really important. It's something that a lot of people don't do. And community doesn't necessarily mean friendship. So find communities in where you feel like you can grow and you're accepted, or you have a place to go to that
Yeah.
feels like you're a part of. I think that's really, really important. And something that I think is very, very often neglected.
Yeah. And I think also embracing, like, of course, in-person stuff is amazing. I feel like as time goes on, in-person things feel more difficult for people just between COVID, between very social media, online world age, between not wanting to waste time, like all the things you could go on and on. But like if in person is something that intimidates you, maybe trying it to see how that impacts you, or if you feel like you really can't find something that's relatable to you, taking advantage of the power of social media and the power of community, because there are
Online
so many
community is a
online ones.
community for sure.
The community. So really like exploring that, because I think even like searching topics, I think there is a community for everything at this point. There just is. So just doing a little bit of research, I think, will point you in the right direction. And not being afraid to try things out and change your mind and then try something else.
Yeah. What are some topics you want to learn more about?
I want to. I think I mentioned it before in terms of like concrete green flags versus red flags for relationships. Not necessarily personal to me right now. Like I want us to talk about it a lot because we're living it, and I really do think it's not like a braggy thing. It's not anything. I just think that we've had time to like dissect this stuff and to live it, and I'm very, like, almost impressed with the way that we navigate, like, adult relationships
Mm,
and, like, the level of communication, like, just everything I'm very impressed by, so I would like for us to learn how we can articulate that so we can help
sure.
our audience,
Sure.
but I would love to learn from someone else too, because I do think there are certain, like, communication styles or certain things that we see in the media or growing up or in examples in our lives that, like, you grow up to think are healthy and are not
Mm,
healthy. Um, like I've mentioned this on the show before, but something as simple as like I really thought that like jealousy meant somebody loved you more, like
mhm.
jealousy of other people, and like that's not the case at all. Like it's
Yep.
not related to one another, and sometimes jealousy can be a little bit more toxic. It doesn't
Yep.
mean it like sometimes it is out of love and protection, but like there's more to that.
Usually
Um,
not.
but we really like I know I convinced myself, I'm like, oh my God, if he's not like fucking fuming with jealousy, this
Mhm.
loves me. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not
Oh, yeah. I've been there. It's
yeah.
wrong. That's toxic.
It's wrong, but, like, we believe it, so
Yep.
that's a perfect example. I also agree with you in terms of money. Um,
Funny.
yeah, like, I think that there are definitely a lot of things that I don't know or don't know well or, like, don't feel like I know well enough compared to my significant other, and, like, I want
Mhm.
to. Um, Definitely money, and in, like, every single aspect. Um, and I think also, just, like what's the word? I guess I don't know if it's efficiency, I don't fucking know, but basically, I would love to be able to, like, work a little bit less and live a little bit more.
Okay. I
Yeah.
love that. That's a great thing to want to learn how to do.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
What about you?
Definitely money management for
Mhm.
sure. I would love to learn about like my hormones and like
Mm,
the human woman's body and like
yeah,
understanding
yes.
how what they all do and like how to deal with them and how to regulate them properly and like what mine are
Yeah,
doing.
yep.
Would love to know that. So funny that we don't know about ourselves. Um Money, hormones. Oh, I had another one. It's just escaping my mind. Also like a topic that I feel like I am learning about is just like all uh all of like the toxic things that are in our products and like blah blah
Mm,
blah and
yeah,
just like
yeah,
trying to get a better understanding on that and how to change things over properly and
yeah.
there's so much more just coming to light on that stuff and it's something that I'm really interested in, because I really do believe that it doesn't just affect our physical health, it also affects our mental health. So
those are the topics. There's so many more topics that we are dying to learn about, need to learn about, will learn about. And if there are any topics, sincerely, that you guys want to learn about, please send them to us, because we only have 2 brains. 1, 2.
1, 2. Thank you guys so much for coming to episode 300. And for being here with us as we do this reflecting. Like, I think it's so funny that when we started the show and we were like 25, we like thought we knew very little, but we also thought we knew so much.
Yeah.
And I think now too, like, it'll be funny in another 3 years to like reflect on this and see how far we've come, and how much we've changed, and even the things that we're talking about today. So thanks for being on the journey with us. That's the whole point of, it's never meant to be right. It's never meant to be fully at an end goal. It's just about learning and growing and changing and figuring it out all together. So thank you for being here with us for 300 episodes, hopefully for 300 more. Please share this episode with your friends if you liked it. If you have anyone that could use this show as well, anyone else in their 20s and beyond, of course, we'd love for you to share with them. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We're going to be much more invested in our TikTok. So follow us there as well. And on YouTube, everything's at RAWringtwentiespodcast. Podcast. And thank you to our partners at Phorm. And
we love
300, baby.
300, baby. We have so many exciting things coming up. Guests, our friends, case studies, all the things. So much more social media vibes. And we're doing it all for you and for us together. And I really can't wait to see, like, it's gonna be so cool to reflect in a couple of years. But we love you guys with our whole hearts, and we'll catch you next week.
Can't wait for episode 600.
Oh, imagine.
Whoa. Catch you then.
Bye, everyone. We'll catch you next week. And then.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.